So my name's Ian Bowles. I work in the business collaboration team at the Waste and Resources Action Programme, better known as RAP UK. You may have heard of it. I've been with them for the last 3 years, specifically working on the UK Plastics Pact, which we launched last year, and on this piece of work, the UK Food Waste Reduction Roadmap, which we launched in September last year. Previous to joining RAP, I was Head of Sustainability and External Affairs at Premier Foods for 8 years, and before that I was the Group CSR Manager at Asda for 6 years. So that's my background, retailing, food manufacturing. So we're just going to go through very quickly, 30 minutes we've been given, but I think we've run into that time already, so we'll go through it as fast as I can, so you get your break. So I'm going to give you an overview of the roadmap, who signed up to it, what we're looking to achieve, and some context around why we need to do this piece of work and we need to do it urgently. So to start with, for those who have not heard about RAP, we're a not-for-profit environmental charity. We're funded through DEFRA and also through a number of voluntary agreements that we have in place. I don't know if people have heard of CORTOL 2025, the CORTOL commitment. We also run voluntary agreements in clothing, so we've got the Sustainable Clothing Action Programme, and we run the UK Plastics Pact, and all those are called voluntary agreements. And the signatories to those agreements provide a financial contribution annually as well to help fund the research and the work that we need to do around those issues. Certainly, you put my glasses on, can't see it. So our vision is a world in which resources are used sustainably. We're about reinvention, rethinking and redefining, and we work in a number of critical areas where we can convene businesses and supply chains to address issues that businesses can't really address in isolation. So we're a convening organisation, bringing people together to address specific and tackle specific issues. So, I said the Food Waste Reduction Roadmap we launched in September of last year. It really looks to address the delivery of the Sustainable Development Goal 12.3, which is to halve food waste globally by 2030. That's post-farm gate, and allow businesses to measure and report consistently. What we're finding certainly from manufacturers, that retailers were all have different asks of them as regards reporting food waste data. They were splitting the data in different ways, and so they wanted a more consistent approach, and that's what we've done. The roadmap we developed is directly aligned and compliant with the World Resource Institute Food Loss and Waste Protocol. It's just a much easier read. I don't know if anybody's looked at the WRI protocol, but it's 160 pages, and it really is a heavy read. Whereas the roadmap is very practical. The tools and the guidance and the reporting templates that we developed are very easy for any business to use or any organisation to use, and they're all freely available online. There's no charge for this. There are for the voluntary agreements that we run, but for the roadmap, we're providing implementation support free of charge because it's separately funded through DEFRA. So if there's anybody that wants some help to embed what we're calling a best practice target measure act approach into their organisation, then we have the resource to help you to do that, and it's completely free of charge. So why is it urgent, and why do we need to address this now? So I've just put this slide together, which is called A Perfect Storm. I was born in 1962, so I'm 57 years of age. Between when I was born and today, the global population has more than doubled, and it's projected to treble by 2050. We've got one planet, and yet within less than 90 years, the global population has trebled. So since I was born in 62, it will have trebled by 2050, and that puts additional stress on various things. Certainly it does on food. So the UN have projected that by 2030 we'll need a 50% increase in food, because that demand will be there. We've got a growing population, we need feeding. With regards to water, there'll be an increased demand, 30% by 2030. We're growing more food, we need more water to grow food for irrigation, etc. That puts additional stress on the availability of fresh water, which doesn't increase, it's finite. And energy increased demand 50% by 2030. So you can see from that that we are putting more stress on our planet. We have one planet. It's been calculated that actually we would need 3 planets to feed the people that are going to need to be fed and watered in 2050. So you can see from that we've got a few issues. And the major problem with this is climate change and I call it climate shift. So if you look at what happened last week in France, 45 degrees, and then you look at what happened in Japan with the hailstones up to 3 feet, was it 3 feet or 3 metres thick? So these are weather patterns that are changing. And when you're trying to grow crops, you want the weather to behave, because you want to know when you can seed and when you can harvest. Now when you're getting erratic weather patterns, that really does cause problems for growing crops. So climate shift is a major problem. And just to put some further context around that, it's estimated by 2050 sea levels could rise by as much as 19 inches. Now if you look at the highest land point in the UK, that's Ben Nevis, and that's 2,000 just under, it's 1,967 feet above sea level. In the Maldives, the highest land point is 8 inches above sea level. So if you can imagine that we've got 19 inches of increased sea level by 2050, that's going to create some major problems for low-lying areas. So if you look at Bangladesh, they've estimated that by 2050, due to sea levels rising, 1 in 7 people will be displaced from their homes. 1 in 7. Now the population of Bangladesh is 168 million. That means there'll be 18 million people displaced from their homes and their properties. And to put some further context around that, that's the same population as Chile. So it's like everybody from Chile being displaced. So these are climate change migrants, and we will see that increasing. I'm not trying to alarm anybody, it's just the truth, the fact. So we've talked about this. This is the SDG 12.3 goal. So by 2030 to halve per capita global food waste at the retail and consumer levels and reduce food losses along production and supply chains, including post-harvest losses. An additional reason, apart from what I've just talked through, these are the, I don't know if anybody in here can see the logo. You can see here we've got currently, I just had an email through, we have a target to get 125 large businesses to embed sort of a best practice target measure act approach within their businesses, their UK operations, by September of this year. So far we've got 115. There's more logos to go on this slide, but we've got 115 large businesses. These are businesses that have a turnover in excess of 50 million per annum and employ more than 250 people. So we've got representation from all the major retailers, including the discounters, Aldi and Lidl. You can see that we've also got great support from some trade bodies, working very closely with the Sustainable Restaurant Association, for example. So this can be a clue of the breadth of its whole supply chains that we're working with, so the retailers and their suppliers as well. And we've just talked about climate change and the real problems that's going to bring globally. But if global food waste were a country, it would be the 3rd largest emitter of carbon equivalent emissions after only China and the USA. So this is food that when it goes to landfill, it breaks down into methane, which is a very potent greenhouse gas, and that causes major problems. So we really do need to address food waste. And to give you some further idea about what the problems are in the UK. So in the UK each year, we throw away, and you won't believe this, it's 10.2 million tonnes of food waste. 10.2 million tonnes. And that's split between retail at 250,000 tonnes. In hospitality and food service, it's actually just over 1 million tonnes. Manufacturing, 1.85 million tonnes. But the real elephant in the room is us, basically, because domestic food waste accounts for 70% of that 10.2 million tonnes that's thrown away every year. So the elephant in the room, as regards delivering the SDG 12.3 targets, even if we could take zero waste out of retail, hospitality and manufacturing, we still wouldn't hit this 12.3 target, because household food waste is 70% of what we do. So we really need to engage with consumers to get them to change their habits and to really value food and not throw it away. And I think we're all guilty of that in various forms. So the economic impact of food waste. Now this pie chart here, this is actually for the HAFS sector, for restaurants. We tend to think when you look at your P&L and you've got a waste management budget on there, that that's the only impact, but it really isn't. It's all those indirect costs. If you look at this pie chart, for instance, in restaurants, 41% of the cost of waste is in labour, because you've had to cook it, you've had to serve it, you've had to bring it back in off plate. So 41% of the cost is labour. Over 50% is food purchase, and actually waste management is less than 2%. So your overall costs, when you look at this, are fairly significant. This is a biannual report that's published by the Food Standards Agency on consumer concerns around food. We were very surprised to see that last year food waste has actually gone up a number of places, and I think that's driven by the third consideration, which is the cost of food. We've seen austerity, household budgets have been squeezed. I think the cost of food has really driven that concern over food waste. Animal welfare was always top, always. It's now sugar, and that's linked to obesity and obviously diabetes. But it is a real concern for consumers. This is just a slide I put together on a return of investment. The SDG Champions Group commissioned this piece of work through the WRI, the World Resource Institute. Dave Lewis, the CEO at Tesco, chairs the SDG Champions Group. And they looked at 1,200 sites, 700 businesses in 12 countries, and it included hospitality, included hotels, included restaurants. And they found that for every pound invested in food waste reduction activities, it returned £14. So that's a 1,300% return on investment. So there's a strong business case for doing this food reduction activity. And the simple things like measuring waste, where you've not measured something, you all know you can't manage it because you don't know the size of it. So measurement is so important to start to get some baseline information, pull that data together. Training staff, I know it sounds obvious, but just taking the time to train staff on preparation and food waste. The roadmap, for example, we've got modules there that we're delivering for the roadmap to train staff. Inventory management is an obvious one, and then technical changes. And that's to packaging. That's more of a retail thing to put more shelf life, keep things fresher for longer. So making some technical changes. And we've seen that. Imperfect produce, we've all seen the one pledge now in our supermarkets, and that's so that supermarkets can buy more of the crop, so it's not tilled back into the soil, or it's not pushed back when it gets to a distribution centre, which I've seen in the time at Asda. The bananas were slightly wrong colour on a chart. So what actions do food waste reduction roadmaps supposed to need to take? So we've developed the roadmap around an approach called Target, Measure and Act, and it's just what it says on the tin, set a target. We've suggested that businesses adopt the SDG 12.3 target, so a 50% reduction by 2030, or set a target that's challenging for their business. So it's not you just setting a 5% reduction target. You really challenge your businesses or your organisations to really make strides to reduce food waste. Measure, so that's using the guidance, the template, measurement reporting templates that we've developed, they're all online. would be delighted. I've been going around so many businesses recently, giving presentations to their senior team, and then cascading that down to everybody on the shop floor. I'm spending so much time out on the road at the moment, but we can do that for any organisation that signs up to the roadmap. We will offer that level of support. We're currently recruiting another 10 people into the team, so we will have that support in place. So just looking at target, as I said, adopt a challenging target for your business is what we'd say. Measure in a consistent way. Use the templates that we've developed for consistency. So businesses can benchmark themselves up against their competitive set to see how well they're performing, which is always useful. And take action. So use the data that you're capturing to develop an action plan. Where is there, or is there any line hanging fruit? Where can you get the best bang for your buck for investment, etc. So this is the roadmap. So they launched in September last year. We've now got 115 businesses signed up, but by September of this year, we want to see those businesses to have embedded a target, measure, act, best practice approach within their UK operations, and we're doing a lot of work to make sure that that is the case. Benefits of the roadmap, well, we're confident you're meeting global standards. It's directly aligned and compliant with the WRI World, Food Loss and Waste Reporting Protocol. Free tools that are available and free resource from me and my team to come out and actually help you to embed this and implement it within your businesses. Lessons learned from others, so we've started to get a suite of industry case studies together just to show what businesses are doing to reduce food waste. There's all that resource as well. Gain public recognition, so all the businesses where you saw the logos on that slide, they're publicly recognised on the RAP website that's being roadmap supporters. Prepare for regulation. This is an interesting one, in that DEFRA will consult on mandatory food waste reporting over the summer. And it's not a consultation as to if businesses should report, it's how and when. That's what the consultation will be about. And there will be a mandatory legal compliance on businesses to report their food waste measurement. And that will be, the roadmap will be the way that will be reported and measured. So it's just getting yourself fit for the future if you're not currently measuring food waste. RAP can offer support and meet customer and consumer expectations. The retailers have really got behind this. As they sent out a note to all their suppliers telling them their expectation is that they will sign up to the roadmap. That went out last week, and we've already had maybe 10 businesses that's come back to us. So available free resources, these are all online, and there are sector-specific guidance that we've developed as well. So we've done it for the beef industry, the dairy industry, fresh produce, we've got retail guidance, but importantly we've got some HAFS guidance as well, hospitality and food service. And we've also got some guidance now on how to measure and report food waste through the sewer. So stuff that's gone down your drain, there's guidance there on how you can measure how much has gone down your drain. The data capture sheet and the measurement sheets are available as well. They're all online. You've got a link to the website there, and I presume these slides will be shared. Look. And I just want to finish off with a new thing we just launched a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if anybody's heard about this, but it's the Guardians of Grub. I've not been that closely involved in this one, but it is a campaign, and once again, there's lots of free resources that you can use, and it's applicable to any size of kitchen or organisation. So, I'll just have to read some of this. So yeah, aimed at empowering professionals from across hospitality and food service to reduce the amount of food waste thrown away in their establishments. Simple low-cost changes. A suite of free Guardians of Grub resources freely available again. It's download off our website. And a campaign toolkit available for spotting bodies, so trade bodies, etc. And the sort of stuff that's available to download free of charge again is Quick Start Guide for Reducing Food Waste, 6 ways to save food waste, just posters and there's communications things, and you can tailor this by putting your own logos on and that kind of thing. So it's all available to download, and once again, there's a link there at the bottom left-hand side of that slide. This is what some of the stuff looks like, so it's colourful, it's engaging. Summary checklist, 6 steps to reducing food waste, and 7-day tracking sheet. So you can use these. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you're going to try and align some of the stuff that we've got with Saffron, which would be really useful. Certainly the measurement reporting templates within the roadmap would be really helpful. So, support for committed organisations, one-to-one, free, confidential. Anything that's shared with us doesn't get shared with any third party. We had to establish that with the retailers because they were looking for us to report their suppliers' food waste through to them, and we said that's not what we do. It's not the way we operate. That's confidential between us and that supporting organisation. We can answer any questions that you have about the roadmap guides, toolkit templates, provide training, and if you want to do that through webinars to multiple locations that you might have, then we can certainly do that. Sense check your food waste data, and it's not a full audit, it's more of a validation, but we can sense check it to see if we think it's right, and ask a few questions around that. And the last bullet point, that's more with retailers, so we're looking at working with the retailers right down certain supply chains, so fresh produce right back to the farm, because there can be impact through forecasting that retailers put onto their suppliers that just generates food waste because they're not forecasting correctly. And my contact details are there as well. A couple of questions, I think, was it? How do I sign up? Just get in contact with me. If you go onto the roadmap website, there is an email address, and you can just contact us through that. Alternatively, you've got my contact details. Just drop me an email, and I can send you an information pack on what you need to do. Basically, it's just a formal letter of commitment, and your logo goes up onto the slide there, and you're added to the list of recognised suppliers. And Arcade in their tenders. No, not that I'm aware of. Not reject anyway, but certainly the retailers are demanding a bit. Waitrose are sending out a similar letter to all their suppliers next week. And we've run a number of road shows. So we ran one with, the first one we ran was with Sainsbury's, and they got 60 of their suppliers to come to that. A lot of them signed up. We're running one with Morrison's next week, and we ran one with the Co-op about 4 weeks ago. A road show where they tell or ask their suppliers to come and come onto those events and get them signed up. And that's it.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Join me in thanking Ian. There was a quick question there about the food in tenders. I'm just trying to look for the right PO guys. There you are at the back. Is that something that you guys are doing as part of your tenders? Okay. Fantastic. Okay. So I think there's two things really. If we think about something that Phil said earlier, the tens of millions that are going through on Saffron e-procurement at the moment, there's actually hundreds of millions of pounds worth of food purchases being managed through Saffron, which means that you have access to all this data. You've got the information from the suppliers. How many people are actually using the wastage book in Saffron now? Okay, maybe about a third of people. What we will do is we will set up a webinar in the next couple of weeks, the next couple of months, to say, okay, look, this is how you configure Saffron so that you can start using the wastage. The biggest thing, if I go back to my days, the biggest thing was actually admitting that there is waste in the business, because it's this no-no, we don't talk about it. And when we go out and do site surveys, I've seen people shoving stuff down the waste disposal unit before the head chef comes back in, or the manager, or it's being hidden somewhere. So the first step would be to say, yes, there is waste. It's inevitable. But then you can actually, as it says, set the target and then act upon it. And even if it's just a couple of percentage points moving, are going to make a big difference on the volumes that everybody here is purchasing. So we will send an invite out, we'll include Ian in. We're looking at initiatives in using analytics to give you some of that data in more graphical format. So, you know, not everybody, I'm really sort of like looking at figures, but if you show me a pie chart, happy days, and if you can start working on that, then it'll all drive forward.